Good afternoon, all of you. The Honorable Chief Guest of this function and the management of Gubba Seed Storage Company and my very dear partners of the seed industry. For me, it's really an honor that I'm here today, this morning with you and talking particularly about germplasm. Before I go further, I thought I would like to congratulate on your behalf, on behalf of the nation, truly speaking, Gubba Seed Storage Company, Gubba Brothers, Gubba Generations, to have really taken care of the storage of seeds in such a scientific manner. I'm really pleased, I must tell you this. And I would like to congratulate each one of you because they are doing it while certainly making profit, but providing you the best services one can think of, and getting value for the money as was mentioned. And the kind of seminar they have organized here is really, speaks volumes about their own involvement, not only with themselves in doing business, but doing business with a style totally on a scientific basis with you all. And this is a news to me, and I am personally happy coming from a public sector that a private sector has taken a lead in creating a germplasm bank of its own kind, which I have seen it here today, and which is no less than, when you talk of technicality of it, no less than anywhere else. We have seen several of them in the country or elsewhere. And also, I'm very proud of the seed industry. I must tell you this, private seed industry. I don't know how many of us would really recall and know that such a great seed industry you never find outside India. In many other countries, they don't have this organized seed sector for production of all kinds of seeds of different varieties and hybrids, as much as we have here in the private seed industry, and of course with the support of both public and private sector together. We cannot undermine. I come from the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. Probably you would be happy to know that ICAR is the largest network of agricultural scientists, institutions, ACRIPs and research centers in the world again. You don't have such a networking system. There are institutions. What I'm talking about is that kind of a network of hundreds and hundreds of institutions and no less than 5,000 and more scientists working towards the food security goals and nutrient security of a country like India. So therefore, friends, I'm really speaking happy to be here with you.
In vitro gene bank, and from in vitro gene bank our ultimate goal is to come down to cryogene bank in minus 196 degrees Celsius. And from, so therefore, or you can directly go from free gene bank to cryogene bank, and similarly for the orthodox seeds. Now, how to select the best method? That where you would like to go for long-term storage, in different kinds, in liquid nitrogen, or in a seed gene bank, or in vitro culture bank. Three things I talked to you about. Here important is seed storage behavior. Seed storage behavior, I believe, go to the next slide, you will see there are three kinds of certain behaviors. I'm sure it has already been talked about by Dr. Mahalakshmi in the morning, but just to go over with you again, the three main categories of seed storage behavior when we talk about it. First is the orthodox. That's what this particular gene bank is supposed to be, taking care of only orthodox seeds that survive long-term dry storage, wherein you can bring down the moisture to a particular level without its effect on longevity of the seeds when you take it out. So those can withstand that kind of lowering down of moisture, from, let us say, when you harvest it will be about 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, you bring it down to 3 to 5 degrees Celsius. Or 5%, not 5 degrees. When you harvest the seeds about 15 to 20% moisture, you bring it down to 3 to 5 or preferably 5% seed moisture content. So you can store it, and those can withstand that low percentage of moisture that is 5. However, in intermediate seeds you cannot take it down to that lower kind of a moisture content, but still you can to a certain extent, and however they can be still stored with reduced longevity. So accordingly one has to decide. And third type is the recalcitrant, where we have to go to, therefore, to in vitro cultures or to cryogene banks with the methodologies which have been developed. And in the next slide, if you see, this is rather important, how the genes or the seeds will flow from the point of view of harvest to the gene bank. I think I would leave probably a hard copy of this for all of you to really go through it, because it won't be visible at this moment from you. But then these are some of the precautions which need to be taken, we should be taking while sending seeds to the National Gene Bank. For example, this is the National Gene Bank for the private sector, not the National Gene Bank, sorry. National Gene Bank is only one, and that is at MDPGR. This is, they have named it as what? Gubba Seed Gene Bank? Gubba Germplasm Bank. I think we should be more familiar with this word now. Gubba Germplasm Bank. When private sector would like to send their germplasm, what way they have collected, all that has been described here. But I would just like to mention at this juncture that there are certain, again, kind of awareness. It's very important for all of us, and that is, gene bank standards, internationally accepted. Once they were in fact, developed by BioRich International in 1994, but then later they've been revised. In April 2013 they've been revised, and revised gene bank standards, which has been revised by FAO. In fact, I happen to be a member of that commission, which has taken this task, in consultation with many other, international seed gene banks, etc. So according to those revised gene bank standards, I think this is important, that what is the number of seeds you would like to preserve, minimum number of seeds. For example, mentioned here in the third bullet, 2,000 seeds for self-pollinated crops or 4,000 seeds for cross-pollinated crops. But however, in the morning when I was trying to re-emphasize the point of collection, conservation of crop-wide relatives, there the seeds could be even less in quantity. You won't have that many number of seeds available when you go for collection, or you can regenerate and multiply to more of it. And only untreated seeds, and there are some of these, sort of guidelines which we need to follow. But important is, when you do this exercise, you do it for basically posterity, and here you would like to document all information, no shortcuts to be accepted there, by the way. I mean, we don't allow any shortcuts there when we receive material, for deposition in our long-term storage in the National Gene Bank. And here, these are the descriptors used in the entry of the passport data. That is very important, and that's why many a times when I request my friends in the private seed sector, they never send the material to me. I have been requesting them, by the way. I'm using this podium again once more to make a request to them. I've written letters to all of them. That can you please share what kind of seed material you have? And rightly say, don't do it with me, because they will not like to reveal where this material came from. And this particular sheet is important to ask you all this information. But still, I would like to request you again to give me at least the information, how many accessions of which particular crop species you have. And therefore we can at least try to enrich our National Gene Bank. We're all Indians here, right? So therefore we would like to take in pride, that we are not only the second largest, rather the largest gene bank in the world, just like, USA or China for that matter. So these are some of the descriptors listed here. And, this is basically the site from where you would have collected the material, how much you have collected, what type, and everything, is given here. Nowadays, with the availability of technology like GPS and all, is rather becoming much easier, to be rather more precise, about this information. These are some of the descriptors which are used in, entry of taxonomy data, which is very important. And this is in fact more important for us rather than you, because we need to have, taxonomy is a dying subject somehow, unfortunately. I get pained myself when we talk about it. Not very many taxonomists, Dr. Shankar mentioned about it again. And we would like to anyway have this information, identification of these species, very important, and what is, their vernacular name, etc. And in the panel below you see descriptors which are used in gene bank management data. That is important for Gubba Germplasm Bank to note, that you need to give some kind of an identity, like we give national identity. What is the initial percentage germination? For example, I've just given an example here, 98%. What was the moisture content when you deposited your material here? What was the seed quantity in number, whether they are, really speaking as per the international standards of the gene bank. What is the storage date when it was put it in the gene bank, and then location in the National Gene Bank. Obviously, I'm sure, you guys are much ahead with the computer knowledge and computer information system to really record. Even you can know from your office, in which, sort of tray or rack is how much material, etc., etc. So this is, very, very important. And just before I go to the next, I would just like to mention here viability. Someone mentioned in the previous session as well. How do you monitor it? In fact, someone you asked a question, it's rather important, of course. You have to be insured, and I'm happy that, Mr. Prashant and Mr. Kiran both assured you that even after 40 years, we will give you that kind of material which is totally viable. But here I would just like to mention that it's not difficult, by the way. The only thing is you have to monitor the viability of the seeds once they are stored initially in your germplasm bank after every 5 to 10 years depending upon the species. You must take it out faithfully, a sample of those seeds, do all the germination tests internationally, and then you record your data. If it is required to be regenerated, multiply it again, you go to your partners or your seed industry itself, will take care of their own germplasm, then you bring it back to the system. I would only like to mention here with you, because I am saying so with certainty, that we did one test. In fact, in our national gene bank, the material which was stored even 40 years ago, I am talking of wheat, we took it out for the first time from a gene bank, entire collection of wheat, about 22,000 accessions to be precise, and we found more than 90% germination in all that kind of material. Provided therefore you maintain 24/7, 365 days with all kinds of backups, it is very important. It's easier said than done, that it's really going to be maintained the way it should be, and I'm sure with the kind of experience they have, the expertise they've shown, it's not going to be rather difficult. But that's important, that we must remember viability, all these initial tests which I mentioned to you, and therefore that brings me to this seed bank standards slide. Next one, please. And here only untreated seeds, please remember, I think that should be a law by itself. Self-discipline is important, that you don't bring any seeds here, and you ensure that which are treated with any kind of a chemical, and etc. I mentioned here before, the same message is given here. And the summary, if you see, is that there has been a great increase in the number of gene banks worldwide. This is now another addition of a creation of a new gene bank in the world, one of them, let's say here, Gubba Germplasm Bank. But however, we need to ensure that the gene bank standards are followed. I re-emphasize that point, please, when you conserve this in a more effective, scientific and efficient manner. And then, of course, for many of these seeds, or the type of seeds, there are not very many standards available at the moment. So private sector could also take up more research with the material which they are sharing with. And gene bank standards also need to be developed for other ex situ collections which have now been developed in the revised gene bank standards which have been given by FAO in April 2013. And they have been there. But we need to, what I'm trying to tell you is, seed bank or private seed industry could also take up more researchable issues on this. With this, in fact, could we go to the next one, please? I would only like to, what all I said was based on the kind of good work which my friends, my colleagues in the NBPGR, this is only a section of the staff we have in NBPGR, to congratulate you as well on their behalf, that you have got such a great facility, created here in the interest of the nation, as I look at myself. And with this, friends, thank you, all of you, and thanks for your patient listening. Thanks to Gubba family again for inviting me here to talk to you about it. Thank you very much.